This is a Wild Age Production podcast.
Welcome to the Classic FASERIP podcast. We're back for issue number 14, and I am Vincent. I'm sitting with my co-host Keith. Keith, how are we doing this eve?
We are doing well, Vincent. Thank you for asking.
It's
Glad to be back. Survived
long, yeah.
2018. So
It's been a long time since we did a show. I think the last time we did a show was back in October or early November or somewhere around there. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, let me take a quick peek here. 13 was done on November 4th, right before, unfortunately, the unfortunate death of Stan Lee.
Yeah,
Got to
that
kind
will be that's going to be hard pressed for comic fans to get around for a while. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, we lost a great man, and I mean, he put in his dues for us. He sacrificed and gave us the laughter, the joy, the imagination that we needed as kids all around the world for decades and decades. I mean,
I was talking to my wife about that. I said, I said Stan Lee is the Walt Disney of comic books.
yeah.
When you really think about it, I mean, you'd be hard pressed. Maybe the DC side of it would be Julius Schwartz or. Heck, I can't even think of anybody else other than Julius Schwartz that comes to mind. That's that iconic a figure in the Distinguished Competitors.
Maybe Jeff Johns at this point.
Maybe, and I mean that would be. I just don't think Johns has the history, the sheer depth of history just yet. But I mean, in terms of what Stan did, and I was talking to my wife about it, and we were sitting there, and she said, he seems like he had a pretty big impact, and she's not a comic person.
Right.
I said, what you have to realize is that, I said, had Stan quit, if you go back and you read the little history about how he was thinking about quitting, and his wife convinced him to write Spider-Man, just go ahead and do your story, go ahead and do it the way you want to do it, because what's the worst that can happen? They're going to fire you, you're going to quit anyway. And so he did it. And, when you think about it from that standpoint, had he quit, we would likely not have the Marvel comics that we have today because if we even have it at all, because he was the writer-editor at the time. There were artists, but he was the guy writing and editing all that stuff. So, that would
be an interesting what-if comic. What if Stan Lee never continued his career?
Yeah.
Would it be just a bunch of blank pages? What would they put? I mean, that'd be kind of an interesting thing to explore, even if, just for a one-shot thing. What if?
Yeah, and I mean, think about it from the standpoint of how many people, how many writers, how many artists did he influence to follow their dream into comic books? How many of those guys, the Walt Simons, the John Byrne, Chris Claremont, Roy Thomas, all of those guys would never have had a chance, at least at Marvel, because there wouldn't have been a Marvel. There wouldn't have been there might not have even been a DC for that matter, because DC sort of, after Marvel hit it big, DC sort of followed along and got some steam off of that. So I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting take on it. I mean, that would be a heck of a what if, wouldn't it? What would Marvel Universe be like without Stan Lee?
Yeah, come on, Marvel. I know you're listening. No, I'm kidding, buddy. It's nice to think they are listening, but they're not. But yeah, listen, that'd be something. I'm really surprised that they haven't thought of that, even when he was alive. What if Stan Lee did not continue his career?
Yeah.
It would have been an interesting story to explore and have like the superheroes, somehow intervene in his life or something interesting like that. I mean, why not? He's been in so many different comics anyway as it is.
Yeah.
Who cares if he's set in a comic book with Spider-Man? I mean, come on, it's Stan Lee.
That's it. And I mean, that's it. That was, and DC released their page-long ad in their own comics about it.
It was a
You know,
very, very nicely done, tasteful page at the end of their comics. Big black memorial page. I don't have it with me. I did see it in a couple of them, but it was a nice,
oh yeah,
very nice,
oh
yeah.
yeah. It's a tip of the hat from the distinguished competition. So, and that's how we always used to refer to them. There was no hate, there was no animosity as far as he was concerned. They were helping keep the industry alive too. So, you know,
Yeah, they did crossovers for God's sake. So they helped each other out all the time.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
But it was always healthy competition that kept them alive. So
that's it, that's it. Which was for the best in the long run.
well, we tip our hat to him, and we are sad. And I wonder what they're going to do with movies going forward. I mean, I keep hearing them CGIing, and they already have a CGI model of his face, and they were going to just put him in the movies going forward because that's what he would have wanted his cameos to continue. But is it disrespectful? Is it good? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think they've only, from my understanding, they filmed a few, going back to about the time that he did Guardians 2, that they filmed 4 or 5, just as, uh, maybe all we need is a poster in the background with Excelsior and him pointing at the camera or something like, something like that. Something classy, nothing
Didn't
that
they?
would tread on who he is.
Didn't they do that in Gifted? The Fox TV show Gifted, didn't they go? Yeah, I'm pretty sure they went into a bar and the background was Stanley and Wolverine or something like that. Oh, and I have to go back and look. In season 1, I think they did that.
I know there was either a Claremont or a Kirby Moving company in Gifted, which I thought was really nice.
Yes, that was I think the name of the bar actually. But it was something weird. They had the two of them together, and it was really cute how they did it. But yeah.
So.
All right, let's move along. We don't want to drag that along. We did our
No. We gave our due diligence.
Yes. Some announcements from the unofficial canon group for Marvel. You can find that on Facebook. We have a link in our YouTube podcast here, which you can head over to youtube.com/c/theevildm, and that's where you can find these live shows. You can watch our smiling faces and wish us the best, right? And thumbs us up. Anyway. Yeah, so George wanted us to mention, George Henson wanted us to mention is he the lead project person there, or is he just the one coordinating, or like?
I like to refer to George as the big kahuna.
The big guy.
If he would, he's Harry George Henson. That's what it's his Stanley nickname. So no, George has been around for like about 1 billion years in and around the Marvel stuff, and he's probably gonna like throw stuff at me for saying that, but he's probably one of the super nicest guys, and I happen to know him from like way back when they had an email list.
Oh wow, okay.
The 90s, and George has been around at least that long, and that's where I knew him from. And when I ran across him in one of the groups, they made a little announcement about this group, and I said, well, yeah, I would love to be a part of that. Not thinking like, hey, look, I could do this stuff. Just how could I help? Can I do stats? Can I do, can I look for art? Can I do that sort of thing? And George got me in, him and Steve Jolly. And I couldn't tell you who formed the group, but I think it's probably George and Steve Jolly and whatever other Illuminati members there are with the Big Kahuna. And from there, I made the mistake of, hey, someone should do an Invader source book. Keith, you should do the Invader source book. Oh, God, I'm doing the Invader source book. The Invader source book, of course, becomes the Golden Age source book, which was supposed to be released before the Silver Age, and, of course, the Silver Age got out first. So, and that, of course, is a whole different story for a whole different time. But George has been around for forever. George and Dave Gallagher have done a absolutely bank the most recent Marvel file. I think it's Marvel file. Is it 21? It is 21. I I can't remember the number on it. Sorry. It was just released a couple weeks ago. Uh, and it is a truthfully it should have been a Winter Guard source book because it is 68 pages in length. Dave Gallagher, who at one time, I don't know if he still writes for Marvel, but I know at one time he did write for Marvel. And he actually wrote some of the appearances of the Winter Guard. And he was in one of the groups and became a part of this group. And George, who's a huge Winter Guard fan, they got the idea to do a Marvel file that is just absolutely out of this world. If you are into the Cold War, if you love pitting Russia against America or Russia against anybody else, this will give you everything that you ever would need to do just that.
I was just looking in the group to see what number you were talking about, but I can't just figure out what numbering system there is there. There's a lot of stuff in there, though.
Oh yeah. It is a fantastic. I mean, they are just producing stuff left and right. I'm working on a Old West game.
Right.
Andrew Goldstein just finished the 3rd Marvel Mythology.
Yes, he wanted us to mention that. Yep.
Which is the Asian pantheons, and it is absolutely fantastic. I thought my Thor and Hercules books were pretty good, but I think Andrew might have beat me on this one. And it is just fantastic. We've got such a talented group of people who have all come together to make sure that the fans are getting some sort of new material. And I mean, there may be stuff in there and you may look at it and go, I would never use an Asian pantheon. Why would I need that? Who knows? But if you did want to use them, there you are. You have it. If you wanted to use Golden Age characters, obscure, strange, bizarre characters who haven't seen the light of day since probably 1945, they're there to use, and it's fantastic. This is stuff that I wish TSR would have produced some of this stuff. I'm a huge fan of the DC. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Vincent.
No. I want you to finish your train of thought. That's why I was waiting.
I'm a huge fan of Ray Winninger's World War II DC book.
Yeah.
When I did the Golden Age book for the group, my hope was that the people who saw it, who were fans of that genre, would look at it and look at the DC stuff and go, this would be a good companion piece to that. And I had a couple of the people in the group who were complimentary and who were like, it reminds me a lot of that. It's as good as that, and I just, that was the best comments I got on it. And I just, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, just don't use it. But I mean, it's there. If you want it, it's free. We're not charging anything for any of this stuff. And it's, you got the greatest group of people who are doing it probably because we love the game more than anything else.
What I was going to say was, even if you don't use the book as it's intended, it's still an inspiration for you to use if you're making up your own characters or you're confused on how something would work in the book. I always found that looking at different characters in the books, when I'm looking at a certain power and I'm thinking, I want to create this type of guy, but that power I'm not sure I can do it with. I go looking through and thumbing through some of your ideas or George's ideas or Steven's, Andrew's, whatever, and I'm like, hey, wait a minute. So that's how he got that power to work. Oh, now I can mimic it. Now I can, piece it together from my homebrew character. So, like saying, even if you can't, or even if you don't use it as you guys intended it to be used, it's still being used in a different way to help other people.
That's it.
And that's the goal you guys are trying to do, help other gamers.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, and I just, I've written stuff before. I've written novels that have never been published. I've got them on my hard drive on this laptop that I'm talking to you on now. And I'm more proud of the Marvel stuff I've done than of any of the novels I've written. Because even if nobody liked it, even if everybody in the group said, Jesus, this sucks. This guy, like, what's this guy doing? I would still be more proud of that stuff because it has some sort of audience. People like Marvel stuff. People like, even if you just like superhero stuff, you can look at this. I've got the DC Golden Age book. I've got the Champions Golden Age book. And my biggest fault with the Marvel game was they never did one. They never did one. I mean, we got, 3 or 4 X-Men books? It's the same characters regurgitated 3 or 4 times. We had a couple Avengers books. 3, I think. A Spider-Man source book, a Fantastic Four source book. I would have loved somebody to have done it like a Champions source book. Just, for the old 70s. Or maybe even like, you don't necessarily need a New Mutants because you've got Children of the Atom and all those. But,
True, yeah.
Something different. Wolfpack, I don't know if there's a need for a Wolfpack mini source book, but,
Wrestling fans out there know what I was doing. So.
Okay. I was like, is Vincent trying to sign that he wants the Wolfpack source book?
No, the Wolfpack. That's a wrestling thing. Wolfpack.
Gotcha. I gotcha. I'm following you now.
Power
Pack.
You know that you're mentioning all these things, and George is probably going to write them all down and go, guess who's doing them?
Yeah, I somehow see my name attached to some of this. And
George,
do it. That's... Don't do it, George. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But no, I help out where I can. I've helped proofread Andrew's mythology book. He used, I think, a couple things from like the grass cutter sword from my write-up of Phobos 2, Ares' son, which, if you know what I'm talking about, great. If you don't, it's you'd have to look it up. But I mean, I won't spend any of the podcast regurgitating that information. But I mean, we try to keep it consistent. I think that's probably the hardest thing, because we got some people, good folks. They're good. Everybody's good-natured folks in this. They want to do their own thing and do their own version and change stuff around, and that's fine. But I don't know that, if you were all trying to be consistent, I don't know if that is going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I just hope that everybody realizes the spirit in which we're, in which this is attempting to be done. And I love it. They love it. We all love it. You like it. Heck, we're doing this podcast. Somebody out there who's watching this podcast must like it. A couple of the guys who have written the game, I've even gotten complimentary stuff from them about it. So it's not bad.
Yeah. There's a couple people in the Marvel group that's writers from the original game, right? I know Jeff is not involved in the group at all, but I think there was a couple other writers in there, right?
Dave Martin, who did the Ultimate Powers book, is in the group.
Is he vocal at all, or because I haven't really seen him say anything?
He doesn't produce anything, which I wouldn't expect him to. But if we have questions as to rules and whatnot, he certainly will answer them. He's very nice, very generous person. Allows you to. We've exchanged messages a couple times. Evidently, we're both fans of DC Comics' Amazing Man. I had a picture of him up on my profile on Facebook at one time, and he goes, "Oh my God, is that from Brave and the Bold?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." And he was like, "I'll have to go look that episode up." And I'm like, "How is it that Dave Martin likes Amazing Man, much less likes Brave and the Bold?" And he talked about how he was really never much of a Marvel fan. He was always a DC fan. So that might be a group that you send him an invite. Just a thought.
We did have, I know, since I'm part of the DC group, which you know I'm part of, for Mayfair, we did have one of the writers join us from the first edition of the game. And
Okay.
he's somewhat vocal and active, but he only knows the first edition rules, and he's only commented on questions revolving around those. He said after that he didn't have his hand in anything, and I didn't really ask him why. So figured if he wants to volunteer that information, go for it. But no, so
Oh yeah.
anyway,
That makes sense.
yeah,
Since I mean, it would be like finding the guys who wrote the Doctor Who role-playing game for FOSSA back in the 80s and trying to ask them about, the more recent version. It's not going to work. Those guys know what they did, 30 years ago? If they remember it, heck, they probably worked on numerous projects. So, but, and before we get too far along, Vincent, we got to swing back for a second to Stan Lee.
okay,
Part of what George and Steve Jolly wanted us to mention was the annual contest that the contest went.
oh yeah, okay, the contest, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, they were evidently the Marvel File is going to now do an annual a year, and on the anniversary of Stan Lee's birthday, which is in December, there's going to be a contest every year. This year, the winner got to pick what the content of the particular issue was. And in this case, it was the Nova Corps from, of course, spinning out of Marv Wolfman's event called Nova series from the 70s. But, they've expanded on that a whole lot since then. So I was looking at the list of characters thinking, maybe I could write one. I don't know anybody other than Rich Rider. So, I mean, that's how far behind I am on that stuff. I mean, I'm familiar with Sam Alexander mainly from the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon and a little bit from the comic book, but I don't know enough about the character to put any sort of spin on him. So I would be lost trying to write that. But they still wanted us to mention that next year they're going to continue the contest. I think it's a good way to not only to honor Stan Lee, but to have a little bit of fun with the Marvel File that they're doing now on a monthly basis.
It gives you something completely random to work on because you don't know what anybody's ever going to pick.
That's it.
It could be anything from, The Punisher to, I don't know, a What If comic that happened 30 years ago. Whatever they want.
Well, now, there you go. What's your favorite What If? You got a favorite?
Probably the What If is definitely the Punisher, just ended the Marvel Universe one. That's probably my favorite because I'm a big Punisher fan when it comes to Marvel. I think Spider-Man and What Ifs are my second favorite ones.
Okay.
You?
Mine is probably either, and this all comes from the first version of the series,
Okay.
either What If Elektra Lived, written and drawn by Frank Miller, okay, or What If, and there's two others that I really like. What If the Spider Clone Had Lived, which I got to think about that afterwards. That one pretty much came true. And the other one was What If Captain America Was Revived Today, and it was set in the 80s, and it's somebody releases the 50s Captain America and Bucky before Steve Rogers is revived. So, by the time he comes back, it's this post-apocalyptic Nazi-type America that's under the sway of this fascist Captain America. And it's, who's leading a group of characters, the Hangman, Hawkeye, there's a Gold Star or a Golden Girl or something like that. He's a little more than a model. And, of course, Steve Rogers shows up, and, who's part of the underground? None other than J. Jonah Jameson. and Peter Parker. So it's a cool comic. It's just one of those things where it's like it makes me almost wish that the Gates of What If had been written about that version. So yeah, I love those.
Still got to explore that What If Stan Lee. We got to write into Marvel and tell them about that one. That would sell.
Yeah,
that would be some hot cakes there, man. Hot cakes.
Yeah.
Get on it, George. Make him get on it.
As long as we don't, have Brian Bendis writing it, I think we'll be okay.
Okay, let's not go on the Bendis train because
we could be going for a while on that train.
Ruin Superman. Anyway, so let's get to the point of the show now. Magic, the basics of Magic. Now, before we continue with the basics of Magic here, I just want to say we'll be referencing the Advanced Players book, and this is the revised cover, I believe. No, wait. It's the original cover because it has the old logo. But the Advanced Player's Guide, and it starts on page 61 to 65, which gives you a basic rundown of the Magic, how it works in this system itself. Now, if you want, you can always grab the Realms of Magic book by Kim Eastland, which is MHAC 9, and that is completely different compared to this. So you can't use them interchangeably. You have to use one or the other. So before going into this, you may want to read both of them and then decide as the judge which one you want to use, because when you use one, you can't swap back and forth. So
very true.
We're going to do today, as just because a lot of people were asking, I've seen a bunch of questions here and there about Magic. Some people were like, well, how does Magic work? And a couple people in my group have had that question about Magic, and I was just like, well, Magic is kind of difficult if you look at the Realms book, because the Realms book makes my head spin sometimes when I read that book, but we'll get to that at another time. This one is pretty simple in this book, so if you do flip to page 61 in the old book, it goes over what you need for it. Now, the one thing I was a little confused about when I did read this at the time many years ago, and still kind of confused about it, the mystical origin talent. Do you need that or you do not need that? It doesn't make it clear. It says may gain, so I'm not sure. What's your opinion on that?
I have always done it that if you are Magic based, you have the mystic origin talent. And I mean, it just makes sense because that's what it was intended to be. That there was some magic there. If you're manipulating magical forces, I would imagine that Doctor Strange, should have the mystical origin talent because he falls into that category. Would Scarlet Witch, that one would be up in the air because, let's be honest here, she didn't start off as a magic character. That was
mutant power. Just
mutant power that evolved into chaos magic and all sorts of other crazy stuff, but certainly Clea, Dormammu, Mordo, Brother Voodoo, maybe even Ileana Rasputin, Magic from New Mutants. Those are certainly characters that I would say certainly fall within that category. Now, that's just a personal thing.
Right. The good thing about these rules is up to your interpretation, much like a lot of the TSR rules during this time frame, from Dungeons and Dragons to this to hate to Buck Rogers, but Buck Rogers, Indiana Jones, things like that. A lot of the rules were up to the game master's interpretation, which was fine by me. I liked it. I mean, there was no official. I don't think there was any tournament stuff available for Marvel at the time. There was for D&D with the RPGA, but I don't think there was anything. Now, they didn't run this on a wide scale, did they? I don't remember anything ever.
I don't think they ever. I don't think there was an RPGA stuff for that. And I wish there had been. That would have been awesome. But my understanding is that the original game ran a couple years. They did that in 80s, I want to say 86, 87. And then from there, that lasted until they did the third revision, which would have been 90, 91.
Yeah.
And then that died out about 93. And it's amazing to me that it only lasted 9 years, but think about all the people that still play it. There's a huge, wide berth of fans that still love this stuff, and I mean, I've had people who wanted to play DC characters, but who didn't want to learn the DC game. And I mean, you can make them for Marvel. It's not going to be, it's more Squadron Supreme than it is Justice League, but it gets you close enough that you get your foot in the door and get going. So, you know, you could make it work. You could, just got to be, you know, a little creative with it, but hey.
Well, the reason why I was questioning that because I was a subscriber to the Polyhedron magazine back in the day, and they did have some various articles in there here and there, and that was kind of an RPGA magazine at one point, having RPGA rules and stuff. So it really depended on who wrote it. So I guess there really was nothing official. But anyway, heading over to this, the Mystical Origin Talent. Yeah, you have it. Yeah, you don't. It makes sense to have it because you have a magical character would have a magical background. Why not would they have done some research or know some knowledge in the background of that mystical origin? I mean, I guess if it's a mutant-based thing, and I don't know. It really, GM interpretation.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I always thought that Realms of Magic was really good, and I think they even reference it in there where they talk about you could use either from page 61 to 65, or you could use the Realms of Magic book, whichever you wanted to do, because Realms of Magic came out late enough in the basic stuff that it's actually pretty compatible with that. You just can't do both.
No, you have to use one or the other.
It really doesn't work like that. In Realms of Magic just treats magic users like altered humans, essentially.
That's exactly what they say, altered humans.
Yeah, you know, so it's just a matter of sitting down and figuring out. I like some of the more creative talents that Realms of Magic has, and of course you have the wide dearth of spells. And, you know, I think that was probably, I don't know, it's one of those things where I'm really sort of surprised they didn't expand the player's handbook. Maybe there was an issue with the rights on it. Maybe Kim Eastland didn't want his stuff included in the book. Who knows? But you can certainly do it either way.
There was also people wanted us to mention these other. We do have G-Cores, JLib's G-Core, which has its own magical rules in it too, on page 71. And it's only a page worth of information that you can read over, but we're not going to look at G-Core today because it's pretty much a different take on the Marvel rules compared to what we're doing here right now. So we don't want to confuse you, but it is mentioned in here. And this is an excellent book if you want to try this as well. I highly recommend it.
Certainly. We recommend you check out G-Core or the next one that Vince could... Yep, FASERIP. There we go.
FASERIP. Now, FASERIP is a clone. It was supposed to be written so people can write supplements for the game itself, much like any clone design today. It's a little bit... I want to say there is magical stuff in here, but they split it up into different categories. As far as there's dimensional control here, there's illusions, mental blast, images, things like it's kind of split into different things how it works as opposed to how magic works here, which we'll go over. But I wanted to make mention of this, and there is no mention of magical stuff in the basic rules set because I couldn't find it in there, which I don't think they included in the basic at all because that's considered basic, and why would you need something that advanced at the time? So
that's it.
And then there's 4-color, which I did not see anything in 4-color, but don't quote me on that because I don't really use 4-color that much. Not that there's anything wrong with 4-color, it's just I have this, I don't need 4-color. That always, I'm going to 1 second step aside, that always annoys when people will go, why don't you know that? It's because I don't need to know that. I have this. Why do I need to know that? I mean, no, not insulting the person who did the clone. Excellent job. No, excellent layout. I like it. I don't need it. I have this, and I apologize. People get annoyed at me for that.
And here's a thought. This isn't a 4-color podcast.
No.
It's a Marvel RPG podcast. I mean, and while we do talk about the clones, we try to make sure that we give fan service to those guys because they're keeping it alive as much as anybody else is. But if we were doing a 4-color or a FASERIP or a G-Core podcast, we wouldn't be talking about Marvel-related things. So,
No, but
and
yeah, we mention this stuff because it's there. We're giving you the option, but we're telling you to research it on your own. We are focusing on the core rules right here. Just like when I do my other podcast, Roll for Initiative, which is based on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons by TSR, we focus on Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition by TSR. Is there clones out there? Yes. There's 2 of them. 3 of them probably at this point. But that's for you. We don't use them because we have the books, which are all up there on the shelves back there. Though these are basic box sets.
Uh-huh.
But yeah. What are you making faces at me saying first edition for?
Nothing. I just finished a second edition, like a 2-year second edition campaign that my cousin, and I got to play a samurai.
Ooh.
And yeah, oh my God, I had so much fun. Just we all had fun, and it was, I didn't know you did an additional Well, I knew you did other podcasts. I didn't know it was. Oh my God, there it is. I had that book.
This book I'm holding right here for those who can't see it because you're listening to it audio-wise is the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons First Edition, first cover with the demon idol on it. And yeah, we do Roll for Initiative. That's the first edition podcast that I do.
Oh, sweet.
RFIpodcast.com. We've been going we're on our 10th year now.
Oh my God.
Yeah. We've been going for a long time on that show. But anyway, back to what we're talking about because, we run off on tangents way too much.
I heard that. It's the rumor on the street.
Yeah. Anyway, so you need at least a good psyche in order to have magical powers. Now, the reason for that is when you do cast certain spells, your psyche can be reduced by 1 rank every time you cast a spell, and it can be done from 1 to 10 rounds, so you need the time to recover to cast other spells. So if you have a good psyche and it drops down by 1, it goes to typical. So you wouldn't be able to cast anymore at that point. So you need to wait, rest, recover, blah, blah, blah. We do have 3 different categories that magic falls under in this for the basic rules. And it's funny how it's listed because it comes out for the acronym of PUD. And that always made me laugh. Even a kid and now. But
yeah,
when they reference it as PDU. So I think when they wrote it and then looked back and went, oh, crap. And they went, well, it's just easier to write it this way than actually go back and fix the typeset. I don't know what the problem. Because remember back when they did these books, it was all paper, and they had to actually put the typeset down on the paper and roll it through the machine and everything. And if you heard the Gygax stories and stuff about how he did these things, though I'm pretty sure this was. I want to say this had to have been done by a printing press house and not. I don't know, maybe. I want to say that it was, but who knows back then. I mean, this is a beat up to hell book here.
Oh, yeah.
Of playtime use. And it's still bound, I mean. And we use the hell out of this book. I mean, there's stains all over it from eating pizza and chips. And
when that fails, when the cover starts to come off, I would recommend clear packing tape.
Yeah.
Just to wrap it around the spine, and you might want to put it on the inside first page and inside cover too, and it will stay together until that staple rusts and disintegrates
right off.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you because I've done it. I've done it for that. I've done it for the Ultimate Powers.
Oh yeah.
Magic, as it's written in the Player's Handbook. Certainly in any of the Marvel stuff
Magic
is it. We're like Beavis and Butthead on this stuff, man.
Yeah. Personal energies, universal energies, and dimensional energies. Those are the 3 categories.
And it's a mixed bag. You got to be real careful. Either you're going to end up. It's sort of like playing a Jedi in the Star Wars role-playing game. You're either going to be fighting Jedi or fighting magic users all the time. Because I know that they've made Doctor Strange a member of the Avengers in some recent iteration of the comic books, but
Yeah.
I really can't see. I mean, yeah, as a console, do they need to bring Strange in for some mystic stuff? Sure, I can see that. Do I see him hanging out at the Avengers Mansion and them hanging out at the Sanctum Sanctorum? No.
Maybe if they have free ice cream, he might show up.
Wong and maybe Jarvis exchanging recipes. Who knows? Now, honestly, it's one of those things where the few Magic campaigns that I've ran, and I ran one way back when we discovered some Magic, and it was just about the time the advanced set came out.
Yeah.
So a lot of that stuff was still in print. Me and a dearly departed friend had a long Marvel RPG campaign, and his character was the illegitimate son of Stephen Strange. And the token NPC that I kept using was a famous fellow, the distinguished competition that likes to wear a trench coat. I'll let you figure out which one that one is. He's in and around Swamp Thing, Constantine. So yeah,
I was gonna say it, but that's why I was making faces.
Yeah, I was and still am a huge fan of Constantine, and used him as an NPC. And of course, once he actually read about the character and figured out where it came from, was not happy. But it's more amusing now than anything else.
Did you at least let him have a cigarette every once in a while? Because,
Yeah.
on TV, he can never have a cigarette. He's always trying to light that cigarette, but something happens.
That's it.
Speaking of which, you do need a mystical arts, I guess, mentor or teacher to get your powers to advance or move along. Otherwise, you'll be stuck and never be able to progress ever.
This is very true.
And the rules do say that it must be an NPC that the judge creates and can make it difficult or easily accessible. So it's really up to the GM how much of a dick he wants to be, pretty much. And I like how the book pretty much says, be a dick. I don't care. Whatever you want to do with your campaign. Thank you, Jeff.
That's it. You can tell that even back then they were trying to make it difficult on the players.
I can see Jeff sitting there with his pipe going, doing one of those with a big laugh and his Hawaiian shirt on that he always wears and everything. Though I don't know if he wore that back then, but he always wears them now if you see him.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Thank you.
So yeah, you need a some type of mentor. Usually when you roll up your character, your GM or your judge will make a mentor for you, and he will have said that you have learned the basics, and that's where you are. Now, each of them are split into 3 categories, like we had spoke about a second ago: personal energies, universal energies, and dimensional energies. Personal energies for things that affect you, and willing participants. So you can use the stuff that basically they mimic powers and stuff like that. And there's a list on page 62 right here. And it just basically breaks down examples of what things would be resistance, senses, body alterations, things that you can do with personal energies. Now, you can use them on other people as long as they're willing. And there are certain situations when they are not willing and you need like a red feat to do that, to even get it to work. So
yeah, and it could be fun in a well-constructed campaign. And I've seen a few characters online, people's personal characters online over the years that I thought were well-constructed for that stuff. And then you see the random person who, somehow managed to get a class 3000 power and get it going. I don't remember being able to generate class 3000 power. I'm not seeing any limitations that would remotely put you within striking crazy like that.
I don't know.
It's all in what you want to construct with it.
Universal energies are listed as like things are in the home dimension, using the universe that you're in around you to create the magics that you want to do. And things like a form of attack is teleportation are universal energies. And on the list here, it lists matter control, sense powers, energy control type powers, mental powers, and distance attack powers, movement powers, body alterations, offense, defense, body control powers. Those are the example list that they have there. Now, when it gets into dimensional energies is where the fun starts to happen. Because
that's where the magic is.
Pretty much. Haha, I see what you did there.
Yeah.
So when you are rolling up your character or picking your character, whatever you want to do, you need to make sure that you have contacts. And your contacts are these various different, I guess, dimensional beings. I think that's
entities.
Yeah, listed as dimensions themselves. That's all. Yeah, entities. Mm-hmm. Dimensional energies are those native to other dimensions. So basically, when you're reaching out, or Doctor Strange is doing this massive spell, he's reaching into these alternate dimensions or other dimensions, asking these beings or entities, as you're saying, in there to grant him the power to do this or that. Now, what I said, why you have to have contacts, is because if you have them as a contact, that means you've worked with them, they're familiar with you, you've, shared spiritual energy with them, mystical energy, whatever you want to call it. And they're like, all right, that guy Keith, he's all right. We'll help him out once in a while, provided he passes his role, we'll hook him up. And then they'll grant the spell to be working. Now, that would be, flipping back to that page. The pages are so old in this thing that they're stiff now at this point. Like astral detection, cosmic awareness, enhanced senses, and those are just example movement powers. They have climbing, digging. Some of them don't make sense why they would be dimensional energy type powers, but they are. Dark force generation does make sense. Energy generation, and each of them on the list here has this entity that is attached to it from what their dimension would be to grant these powers. Now, anybody that's not on your contact list would be considered neutral towards you, which is fine. Okay. You just need to use your popularity roll, and your popularity roll would be based on your psyche. So, and if you get a good result, the power's like, all right, cool. They're like, yeah, that Keith guy, I think I heard him from the other good guy over there. He gave him a thumbs up once, so I'll hook him up.
I'll help him this time, but I may call upon him for something in the future.
So he godfathers you, pretty much,
That's it.
Now, if he's unfriendly towards you, then usually, that's when it starts going a little south. Unfriendly, he may not help you at all.
You want what? You want what? Oh, you want me to help you? Well, what are you going to do for me?
So,
and then,
Then you get into hostile.
Yeah. Sacrifice your 6 best friends for me.
The hostile ones will, if they're hostile towards you, and when you're first starting the game out, you probably won't have hostile entities at all. You'll have neutral or maybe unfriendly, because they just don't like people in general bothering them. But those unfriendly can quickly turn to hostile, which means if they turn to hostile, they may be like, oh, Keith's contacting me. Well, why don't we just screw up his day? Screw the spell back at him. Gee, why don't we open this dimensional gate and rip him through it and throw him throughout the universe for an ever-ending flight that he'll never regret. I mean, that he'll always regret. Or, let's screw with him. Let's let the power work, but we'll just make it a little weaker. Things like that can happen. And there's a whole chart here for shifting spells up and down column-wise on page 64. And it's up to the GM at this point when you're on the hostile end what exactly you want to happen. I mean, that entity can come through the magical weave, so to speak, or whatever, and then jump in. Oh, you're fighting Thanos? Thanos is my new best friend because I hate you. So, things like that. Thanos obviously an extreme, but just an example.
How sad would that be? Thanos is my new best. What if Thanos didn't like him? What if Thanos didn't like him either? You get away.
Thanos would probably be like, I don't like him, but I'm gonna use him.
I don't like Keith either, so
I have a feeling he'd be like, I don't like him, but he's powerful. He's more powerful than Keith, so I'm gonna use him. And then when he's not looking, I'm gonna get rid of him.
It's gonna be a snap. It's gonna be all over.
That, honestly, Thanos would probably just snap him away. I mean, if he has the gauntlet at this point, he's just gonna go goodbye. And that's the end of it. I mean, what's the point?
That could almost be how we could end a podcast with just a snap and everything fades to black.
No, we're not going to Infinity Gauntlet this podcast. I'm sorry, and do a 50-50 roll and see who comes back or not.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. I mean,
I'll come back by myself. Well, Keith, it's unfortunately dust, and I did like a picture of like a dust bowl, and that's supposed to be you with the headset and a pair of glasses on the dust bowl.
There we go.
Unfortunately, Keith is gone.
You'll just hear the disembodied voice.
Yes, we'll just have no picture.
Let my grandson come in and occasionally look at the picture of the. Who's that?
Yeah, right.
Something like that.
So that is pretty much how Magic works in the advanced edition of the rules. It relatively how we broke it down is very simple.
Yeah.
You basically,
and I mean,
you mimic the power. You roll on the chart under your power rank, and the higher the result, the more effective it is, depending on the power. That's it. It's handled like any other power, pretty much. You're just using your psyche for everything. So,
yep.
Unless it's the popularity roll, and then you have to,
Yeah, and the only real downside to it is it sort of becomes a situation where, unless this is a character who is in and amongst a group of other characters, you either got a really good solo Magic campaign,
yeah, or
you're either the poor, I don't know, Gulf Coast Avengers are being drugged through yet another adventure with Dr. Mystic and battling the forces of Dormammu, and it's like, gee, I know we got some other villains we could fight. It doesn't, isn't there a Stain International or something nearby? So, and you just got to be careful. You got to met it out carefully, I think.
I would think if you're running a campaign and you're not using Magic and you've listened to this, or maybe you just looked through the book and like, oh, you know what, we haven't used Magic before. I think throwing in a magical villain on your campaign against your players would be a good thing to mix things up a little bit, because it might something to have them overcome, but obviously give the magician some type of weakness so they can get around it.
Yeah.
But it's a nice little change, I think, in your campaign, just to throw magic at them and be like, whoa, okay, so he's not a mutant. Oh, whoa, he's not an altered human, really, though he is, but he's not a robot destroying the city for once. It's different.
He wasn't bitten by a radioactive rabbit,
He's not in the trench coat smoking cigarette. Oh, wait, he is.
Yes. That's it. Whatever you got to do. I'll tell you another little bit that I used, and I want to say I got this from, I can't remember which comic I got it from, the Miskatonic Inn, and used it as a bar, like a rotating bar. It would show up, people would go in, say, in the Greenwich Village. There'd be a doorway in the Greenwich Village, and the Mystics would go in through the door, and they would end up in the bar. They would exit another door, and they would end up somewhere else.
Yeah.
And it was always, never was in one rotation or one solid place. It was maybe interdimensional or something. Mystic. And I want to say I took it from, I can't remember which comic series, but it was something that I liked dropping in, a little bit of flavor. If you're going to do it, embrace it. Use anything you want to use, whether it's Marvel, DC, Champions, Image, Milestone, whatever. I mean, if it pitches off something, use it to the best of your ability and have fun doing it.
Exactly. Again, this rule is up to interpretation, a lot of it, so as long as you and your group are having fun, who cares?
That's it.
Who cares what Keith and I think? As long as you and your group are having fun, I'm never going to tell you how to run the game. We're just going to give you advice based on how we play the game. And if you use that in your game, excellent. Party on. If not, all right, cool. At least you listened, right? Maybe you got an inspiration somehow from us. But yeah. head over to classicfaserip.com for our website if you want more information. Head over to the unofficial Marvel Canon Group, or Marvel Unofficial Canon Group. I forget how it's worded. And you can join in on all the fun if you want to help build your favorite character that's never built, or the favorite group that's been never built. There's plenty of people, and there's probably like over 100 people in the group at this point, I think. Right?
There's quite a few.
Yeah. And there's tons of people in there that'll give you advice, give you help with layouts and things like that. I mean, I know a bunch of people were always like, well, I can do the write-up, but I don't know how to do the layout. And I know there's a couple people in there that help with layouts all the time, or give advice on it. I know you've given advice to people on layouts.
Yeah, and it's, and that's one of those things where it can be difficult. It can be, and it's especially daunting because here you are, you've generated a bunch of stuff. You've got God knows how many pages of material, and you're like, how the heck do I get this all where I need it to be and how I need it to be, and who's going to help me? Who's going to take me by the hand and guide me for this? And when I first did it, I mean, I was trying to get somebody to help me, and then basically somebody said, dude, you should probably do it yourself. Only going to be satisfied if you do it. And I said, are you out of your mind? I've never done it before. And then, I sat down and thought about it. I was like, you know what? The worst that can happen is I'll screw it up and someone else will have to do it in order to straighten it out. And I mean, there's a few things that I can't do, and I know I can't do it. And every time I try, I screw it up. And it's mostly making covers. I mean, if you want me to lay something out, I can lay it out. If you want me to add a banner to the top, that's not really my wheelhouse. But, I know some people in the group who can do it and make it look like it came off the shelf at your local B. Dalton or Walden Books A Million or whatever. So, yeah, come join us. Come join us. Join in on the fun. Be a part of the magic. See what I did there?
Yeah.
And, yeah. And, help us help you.
Another name I want to mention, Tom Plaza, I believe that's pronounced his name. Very, very helpful as well in the group. He's given advice on some of the stuff I've done on my actual play podcast. I've seen him give dozens of help for the Marvel group. He's even in the DC creative project that I'm part of as well. And he's given advice on the things I've done there as well. So he's an all-around stellar guy as far as helping out. Loves to just help.
We're going to call him Tom Partyman Plaza. That will be his name.
Party Man? Okay.
Partyman. So,
I'll be sure to mention that to him. Well, he'll probably hear this and then laugh too. So.
Or I'll get a nasty letter from Dear Keith. Do not refer to me as the Party Man. What the heck, So, Vince, and I think, does that cover the thing?
Yeah, I think that's, head over, write us, ask the DM at theevildm.com, and you can get your email read. Head over to iTunes if you haven't and give us a review. We haven't done a review in quite some time, though we haven't done a podcast in some time, but it'd be nice if we got a review on iTunes.
Yeah. Send us mail. We like mail.
Yes, we should probably solicit for questions, too.
Send us questions.
Yeah. All right, folks, we will see you next time. Good night.
Night.